So hurricanes, we know, can reshape a community in many ways. The mindsets of its residents, the landscape itself. These storms are named, and there's one name in particular when mentioned to people of a certain age here on the First Coast. It will start a conversation. We're talking about Hurricane Dora. Many have stories to share about that monster storm that swept through and swept away homes and businesses. Jacksonville's greatest disaster since the Great Fire of 1901. Let's go back in the day with GMJ to September of 1964.
I was a teenager at the time, and so I remember it well. We lost 42 houses in North Florida. More dramatically, 22 were washed out to the sea.
These images, for those who lived through it, are haunting.
Here you have weatherman George Winterling. He predicted Dora, the only meteorologist to predict the hit.
I didn't see how it could miss us. And I said, well, this storm is headed our way, and by Wednesday, I drew 100 on the map right over the St. Johns River and said winds would be up to 100 miles an hour. And that got their attention.
Meteorologist George Winterling, now 86, was just 30 years old when he predicted a direct hit of Dora on the First Coast. Using early technology, a paper map, and science, he spoke words many over the years were taught to doubt. The belief was that Jacksonville was somehow hurricane-proof.
We do remember that, and that it was going to be much more than a tropical storm, that we needed to take real precautions about it.
Winterling's announcement caught the attention of Sharon and Harvey Scholl. At the time, they were both professors at Jacksonville University.
This was at an unfortunate period in that students, I'm speaking particularly of dorm students, had just arrived on campus, and we had to prepare for them to ride it out.
Just after midnight, September 10th, 1964, Dora's eye moved ashore in northeast Florida. Seas were 10 feet above normal. Storm surge flooded homes along the river, in tributaries, and the beaches.
The rain that was washing against the windows, you know, was just a loud hiss with all that rain pouring in, and you could hear things beating against the house, bushes and all.
Dora's direction took an odd turn and showed no mercy to its target.
1,000 miles east of us. It looked like it was going to make that classic curve. We even say just the recurvature that people here expect. Oh, we're watching it. It's making a turn to the northwest. It's making a turn to the north. It's passing us as it goes by. Oh, Dora didn't do that. Dora was making that look like it's going to make the turn, stalls, comes due west toward Jacksonville.
Known as the U-turn storm, the Category 2 hurricane left behind destruction most on the First Coast had never seen before.
The yards did look like bombs had gone off with tree limbs and Spanish moss and leaves everywhere around.
What really stands out is how the St. Johns River came up so high, and the entire parking lot downtown was underwater, and Riverside, all along the riverbanks, the river came up to a block or two away from the river, where people had never seen the water that high before.
The Ferris wheel, which was also well known at the beach, it literally was folded in half on itself.
A dark time. For Jacksonville and surrounding areas, the power was lost. The Scholes went without electricity for 3 weeks.
I went around to some of the neighbors that we were friendly with and begged refrigerator space. And so we got to be very friendly with the neighbors.
Friendly neighbors, a resilient spirit, and federal aid led to the River City's slow recovery. President Lyndon B. Johnson arrived in Jacksonville on September 11th of '64, surveying the damage, a sign of much needed help on the way.
I knew it was something we could recover from, and it was just a matter of time and cooperation.
The fact that within a week, people here were sending their kids back to school in 1964. The Beatles still played downtown. It just showed me that as bad as other hurricanes have been, if Jacksonville, if they could come back from that, as bad as Matthew and Irma was, I knew that we could get back from those two hurricanes.
I
I certainly learned that you needed to prepare as thoroughly as you could for a hurricane. You don't just sit around and wait to see what happens.
Hey, all the way back then in 1964, examples of first coast strong. You just heard Tim Deegan mention that there. Now, we are all wary of hurricanes now with this active season that we're experiencing, but keep in mind it is not quite over. Hurricane season doesn't end until November 30th, and as of now, the 2017 Atlantic hurricane season is among the top 10 most active on record.